Welcome, everyone. You're back with Bobby and Graham and the Voltage team here today, and we're talking the latest in Bitcoin and Lightning. How are you doing today, Graham?
I am doing good. Yeah, it's 4th of July week, so kind of hard to focus. Feels like there's just a lot going on, but getting stuff done nonetheless.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are checked out. That awkward holiday that lands on a Thursday, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
well, cool. Well, yeah, I got some topics together for us to talk about this week. Some cool technical things that are coming about from TBAST and some advancement on L402 from a marketing standpoint, which I think is pretty cool for Lightning, and some more government slash regulation style stuff too, which is going to advance some corporate adoption. But we'll go ahead and dive in. But this was an interesting headline to read here to kick us off. The U.S. Marshal Service chooses Coinbase to safeguard and trade its large cap digital assets. I know right now Coinbase is also being sued by the government, and there's been a lot of
Yeah.
kind of some laughs online, between Coinbase custodying, but also being sued by the government. But I mean, all in all, even though they're being sued, they're going to figure all that out. This is cool to see, in my opinion, that the state is working closely with Coinbase, who, in my opinion, has done a pretty good job fighting and defending our industry over the last years. If some stuff's gone down.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I was going to see the exact same thing. It's kind of funny the double edged sword of the government both suing and working with Coinbase at the same time, which is it's just crazy. It just kind of shows how much of one a mess the government is, as well as like they're still coming up to speed on a lot of this stuff. Like they're behind in a lot of ways, but I think it is great to see. This happening. I mean, I think it also shows like the acknowledgement of like Bitcoin and crypto more generally from like the government standpoint, in that I think they anticipate more the U.S. Marshal Services needing more services for crypto than otherwise. So I think it's kind of hard to also like cheerlead this, just because it's like, when the U.S. Marshal Services get involved, it's usually confiscating people's Bitcoin, whether they're using it for some illegal activity or whatever. But it's usually like kind of holding confiscated Bitcoin or crypto in general. But I think this just shows that they need to have a more robust strategy, and I think that we're going to see just other areas of government continue to be looking for a more robust strategy to really learn how to deal with this. So I think it's a really there's some positives to it. There's some negatives, all of those different things. But I mean, it's definitely interesting to see that hit the news this last week.
Yeah, it did. And it's interesting. They say digital assets, plural. And it'll be interesting over time if it moves to digital asset being Bitcoin. And the only reason I bring that up, it's not to say that other assets don't have utility, but the thing we've seen, in 2017, there was 2,000 assets. Now there's, I think, well over a million, if I'm not mistaken. And I think there's going to be one that wins, and it'll be interesting to see, what that is. But
yeah, absolutely.
Cruising along here, this was meaningful, and I wanted to bring it up too because we've covered in the show in the past how Tether is one of the biggest buyers, if not the biggest buyer in the world of 3-month bonds, and they're the 16th biggest bond holder in the world, I believe. So stable coins are a big deal. They're playing a major role in the industry, and it looks like Circle, they hit a milestone as far as meeting certain criteria that are necessary for adoption in the EU, and that's a pretty big deal. Like, I don't know your thoughts on this, Graham, but I've always thought it's like either going to be Tether or USDC. Maybe there are going to be like 3 or 4 or 5 stable coins that survive. I don't know if it's a winner take all game, but this seemed like a pretty big deal as far as just adoption and growth in the EU broadly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think it's another kind of regulation thing. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see more Circle getting these kinds of like checks, just because I think, I mean, there's a lot changing in the regulatory space, and it used to just be incredibly hard to get things like this. I think that there's obviously, they're one making new laws specific for crypto, like this is, as well as being just more friendly and helping folks like Circle, ourselves, anyone really comply with what they require. So I think this is like it's good to see. I think it's good from the standpoint of just, I think furthering adoption, just helping really make sure that they're doing it in the best. People like Circle are just so large that they have to. There's people always like to kind of talk like Trojan horse, or just like, once enough people start using the technology, there's no way to regulate it. Those kinds of things, which there's arguments to that. But I think for someone like Circle, they're just such a large entity. They absolutely have to kind of go these kinds of paths. So it's great to see that they're making progress in doing it along that path. So I think, it's definitely great to see.
Yeah, agreed. Moving along here, and this is again like on the everyone's always asking for regulatory clarity, and maybe we don't have it at a national level, but on a local level, it's cool to see this is another state that's passing certain laws for. I don't believe it's actually Bitcoin rights. If just to be fair to the topic, it is crypto, because even though our local state here, I know a couple of guys who meet with the treasurer and the folks who run the state, and they're forced to say the word crypto. They're not allowed to only say Bitcoin because, got to be open-minded, accepting whatever reason we have to justify it, regardless of a lot of these kind of go to zero long term. They're not really holding value. But at the end of the day, all that matters is rights are defended, and many states are standing up against CBDCs. And that's just interesting because states standing up against CBDCs really, I think, gives legs to Bitcoin. Obviously the stable coins are here to stay, it seems like, but by resisting CBDCs, it just really creates like an open floor for Bitcoin to be a topic. Like that's just such a good thing. It's like, sure, it's great CBDCs are, banned in the state, but it really opens the floor for a conversation about Bitcoin, which is the exciting thing.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think it does. It does open the floor for a lot of those things, and I think this is also great to see. That I think there's I think, what does it say? There's like they joined Oklahoma, Montana, and Arkansas for setting some of these kinds of policies, which is great. I mean, hopefully we see more states doing things like this. I mean, I think there's places like California and whatnot, or New York, that are historically maybe more challenging. So maybe we aren't holding out hope for them, but it's great to see states doing this, and it also helps, for everyone locally to, get involved and try and make these kinds of policies known to your lawmakers, because that is ultimately what it comes down to is there's a lot of education still needed even at the state level. I think everyone holds out for like federal enforcement, federal guidance, all of those things, but there's a lot that you can do just even at the state level. So we should absolutely be pushing for more things like this. And then the anti-CBDC relation to it is just awesome. I mean, it's just great to see more kind of more legislation pushing back against those kinds of technology, whatever it is. It's great to see that being kind of actively called out and ruled against.
Yeah. Yeah, the right to self-custody, obviously imperative for us as individuals, Bitcoiners who understand the value of self-custody and not having counterparty risk. Transactional freedom, I mean, this is obviously key for Voltage or any other Bitcoin company, allowing individuals and business to spend Bitcoin without additional legal barriers. Mining, obviously, is a huge market in America. They, like Pierre Richard from Riot was in the courts, sharing important things that help, influence some decisions. But this is interesting, though. It says it prohibits Louisiana from accepting payments in CBDCs. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that, CBDCs can't happen. Obviously, that battle is not over, but the government simply won't accept them. But I mean, that's a good first step.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good first step. I think I just talked about the importance of states, but I think the CBDC thing is certainly a much more federal level type setup to ban. But yeah, it's great to see them even just calling it out, just saying we aren't going to accept it in any regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And this popped up on my feed. This actually, came about 45 minutes ago. It looked like T-Bast was was commenting on GitHub, but talking about the code for on the fund liquidity ads and splicing. And I pulled up the GitHub here, and it just brought up using zero comp channels to avoid HTLCs and things getting hung up, but allowing people to make payments faster and in real time with zero comp channels. But I know we've kind of explored this a little bit, but can you maybe break down for folks like why on the fly channel funding is just important for the scaling of Lightning?
Yeah, definitely. So like on the fly channel funding is nothing new exactly. Like that's what our Flow 2.0 product is. There's a lot of other kind of LSPs that are starting to do that. And so on the fly channel creation just helps in that kind of the onboarding of like, you don't have to actually have a channel established and confirmed to be able to receive a payment. You can basically create a zero conf channel at the time you're receiving a payment. So it helps significantly with the onboarding of new self-custodial users into Lightning. So that's really, really good from that angle. What this is doing and proposing is working with, it's combining two different technologies, or maybe a couple actually, of one, liquidity ads. So what liquidity ads are something created by, I think Lisa at Blockstream or Base 58 now, in basically advertising via the gossip protocol in Lightning of your willingness to sell liquidity to others. So it's basically a way of selling channels, just like Pool or Hydro or any of those marketplaces. Similar thing, but it's just using gossip. So it's completely decentralized in the ways that you advertise that you want to sell liquidity. And then it also combines splicing. So that's the ability to basically add or remove liquidity from a channel without actually having to close the channel. And then dual funding, which is, creating a channel with funds on both sides. So it's combining these different kind of technologies, which are all, decentralized for the most part. And it's creating these to do the on the fly channel funding, which is really interesting because the way that almost, I think all on the fly channel funding, zero conf funding always happens via like kind of an LSP. So it's someone like Flow 2.0, Breeze, there's other, like I think the Block Tank, maybe just a lot of different LSPs out there. And so those are, sort of centralized hubs for liquidity and routing and all of that stuff. But this enables basically anyone to offer that same experience. So again, further decentralizing the network and allowing anyone to have to offer this kind of really easy onboarding experience, offer as well as offer it to your users of your application or just yourself. So it's cool to see this combination of a lot of different tools being created to, further decentralize sort of the liquidity space across the network.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that breakdown. Yeah, this will be cool because I was even going to make a payment last night from Zeus, and I opened up Zeus and it was like, hey, you have 60,000 sats in Lightning. I was like, sweet. Didn't think to go double check that I only have like a few channels open. Each of them had less than 20,000 sats in them. And I was just like, oh no, I can't make the payment I want. And being able to like splice right into that quickly and like beefing up one of the channels would have been really nice. But
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I think that there's, liquidity has historically been this like pretty rigid thing. And I think that there's a lot of, tech being built out to make it a lot more flexible, a lot easier to use.
Yeah. And then just in kind of wrapping up the show, I wanted to share this too, L402. This is something I'm incredibly bullish on and excited for because it's going to give us the ability to have internet native paywalls and to just allow for like new monetization models like it shares here. I don't know if you want to maybe kind of share a little bit on this, some of your thoughts. I'm not sure how many, things you've heard as far as this being used, but share some of your thoughts and then I'll dive into like some of the things I wanted to share as well.
Yeah, I think just L402 in general is like, it's a really exciting project or proposal protocol, any of those things. So I think that it's really cool to see, leveraging this status in the internet protocol like HTTP to require payments for services, whether it's pages, API calls, any of those things. And the only application that really makes sense, and the reason why it hasn't been really used to date is it just hasn't made a lot of sense. How are you going to like enter in like a credit card in a really easy way across like all these different sites? How are you going to like do it with Ethereum or something where you have to pay this like on-chain fee for every time you want to like, read an article or something? Even some of the layer 2 scaling solutions or fast blockchains like Solana and whatnot either won't scale or couldn't handle like a global demand of this actually working. So Lightning is the only technology that would be able to actually facilitate these kinds of things in a sensible way. So there's things like L402 that have been created to kind of combine those, which I think is very fascinating. It's really great, and I love that it seems like that we've really kind of the L402 space has really kind of come into maturity more or less in the last like couple of months. So it's been really great to see people like Sulu and others like actually developing on top of it. So I think it's a really exciting space to be looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I know it's still very early, but with the rise of just the content creator role for individuals, and it's the fastest growing segment of new business applications in America right now is content creator. I think as platforms like X, they're really working hard to make it where folks can monetize, and they responded pretty well. There was a group overseas that was capturing IDs, and people were kind of bitter about that, and they petitioned, and then X pivoted over to leveraging Stripe for ID verification. That made some of those folks happy, but it's clear that content creators have power and have voice. And right now, if you're on Spotify, like making music, you're making less than 70% of what you earn. If you're on TikTok, you're making 60%. On YouTube, Google's taking a big chunk. There's the ability as a content creator and just someone who creates anything online to earn, about 99% of what you do. And L402 helps make that possible. But like you shared, even with some of these like API monetization tools like Sulu is doing, like when it comes to APIs, like 84% of the internet are API calls just happening behind the scenes. I think a lot of people, when we interact with the internet, we think I click button, I go to next page, but really there's all these computers in the back end just doing stuff that we don't see. And allowing that to happen in real time is going to be pretty powerful. But it'll be interesting to see, like you said, there has been a lot of maturity going on in the L402 space, and anyone who likes what they're hearing with some of this, whether it be new monetization models, some of the API monetization, or leveraging it for AI applications. This is native on the Lightning Network via the LND implementation of the Lightning Network, so you can do that through Voltage. We enable folks to deploy LND nodes, and there's folks actively doing this today with us. We actually have a Sulu case study coming out next month. They're someone we work closely with, and their CTO Samuel shared that we saved their team 32 engineer hours monthly. So that's pretty material, to help automate some of that. But then not only the automation from Voltage and the help that we give folks, you've also got L402 just like firing those payments and handling that for you in real time versus dealing with large credit card bills, chargebacks. That's its own problem in the AI LLM world. But I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think it is great. Like, I think that is definitely, it'll be really cool to see how this stuff actually kind of comes into fruition in the ways that it'll be used. That was one of the first things that I was really interested in when I started Voltage, was all of this kinds of really embedded internet experiences and being able to pay in like a really simple way, like in a very integrated way to the internet. So excited to see that actually, coming to fruition and being a reality.
Yeah. Well, that's about what we had here for the show today. I know Bitcoin 2024 is coming up here near the end of the month for everyone. Graham and I will both be speaking on separate panels. We don't know exactly what the topics yet. Everything's not announced, but if you guys are there, we'd love to see you. We actually have a booth in the Enterprise Hall. So definitely come by and say hello. We're going to be launching a page probably late next week to book, demos, say hey to the team, connect with us, and we'll be throwing a side event for some folks. So if you're a business looking to use Voltage, or an individual wanting to like learn more about our enterprise product, please feel free to reach out, shoot a DM. But any final words though, Graham, before we hop off for the day?
No, I think that sounds great. So yeah, definitely check us out at the Bitcoin conference. I think besides that, send us anything you guys want us to cover next week. Have a great 4th of July.
Yeah, happy 4th of July, y'all. See you.